You've all heard of Andrew Huberman, right?
Who are you talking about?
Who am I kidding? Of course you have. Well, I've memorized over 150 videos of his.
Wow!
Because I have nothing to do, and I applied the most helpful tips in my daily life for the optimal / productive / happy day. It's not advice from only Andrew Huberman, but from all of the guests he has had so far. When I say so far, I mean until January 2024. I also memorized knowledge from the Matthew Walker podcast and the book Young Forever from Dr. Mark Hyman, because diet and sleep, apart from exercising and socializing, is really important for a healthy / productive mind. Although diet is one of the most controversial topics, hence why I resonate with Dr. Mark Hyman, because he's not too strict about just one particular diet. And Dr. Andrew Huberman, David Sinclair, Chris Palmer, Lane Norton gave a broad overview of what to eat as well for the mind. Alright, without further ado, let's get productive. You so cheesy, dude. You know cheat? Not shit, nah. Cheat. Okay. If you want to have a productive day, you need to start with getting a good night's sleep. I know I've really hyped you up there with the music, and now I'm talking about sleep, but this is just a must. Aim for 80% of the time because, you know, life. This means looking at the sunrise, even if it's cloudy, and no, not with sunglasses. Even on cloudy days, you should do it. If it's super cloudy, then do it for around half an hour, and if it's clear sky, then 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah, don't look directly into the sun.
You don't say.
So why should we do this? Because it primes your cortisol and melatonin. It's natural. We all have a spike in cortisol as soon as we wake up, and you can increase the spike by up to 50% by, you guessed it, looking at sunlight in the morning. Also, when you spike your cortisol, you clear the rest of adenosine that is lingering in your system. Adenosine is what makes you sleepy. Certain forms of exercise also clears out adenosine.
What on earth are you doing?
By the way, when you take power naps, you put this adenosine back into ATP, hence why it's called power naps. ATP, a trip home, ใช่ไหม?
What's that?
No, it stands for adenosine triphosphate, but what it stands for is not really important. It's energy that our mitochondria in our cells produce. Anyway, when you look at the sunrise in the morning, you also increase certain types of dopamine receptor, the D4R4, and dopamine is responsible for your motivation. But before I actually look at the sunrise, the first thing I do when I wake up is box breathing. Box. Sorry.
Right, but that's what I don't understand. What just happened?
You should do this once or twice per week. Most of us breathe in too much oxygen, and the optimal amount of air one should do per minute is 6 liters of air. 6 liters of air. Sounds, yeah. Don't you know how to breathe? Inhale, exhale.
Are you stupid or what?
Yes, but some of us do shallow breathing. If your brain gets too much oxygen and not enough carbon dioxide, because you actually need CO2 for oxygen to be liberated from the transporters to the brain, the hemoglobin, the brain then gets 30 to 40% less oxygen, and as a result, too much noise in the brain, leading to perhaps anxiety. So how long should one then do box breathing for? Here's a quick summary. Nope, that is cyclic hyperventilation or Wim Hof breathing. Good stuff.
My parents, Teresa and Gustav.
Good stuff. Which serves another purpose like raising your adrenaline and combating infection. You can do that too. Then I would drink water. What kind of water is also important, whether it's cold or warm, and what pH the water is. The warmer, the better. And aim for higher pH water because it is better absorbed. If your water's magnesium level is between 8.3 and 19.4, that you reduce your cardiovascular disease by up to 25%. By the way, magnesium and calcium influences the pH of the water. You should also be drinking electrolyte in the morning because that's what your brain or neurons use to communicate with one another. Or if you don't have that, then you can just use salt. By the way, if you're too low on salt, that could also cause anxiety. You mean, easy. Damn, why don't you just eat the whole thing? 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of salt per day. Once I have that out of the way, I exercise. There are many adaptations, which Dr. Andy Galpin beautifully laid out. There's even a recent article saying how lifting weights once or twice a week reduces your all-cause mortality up to 40%. If there are two natural medications for the body, it would be sleep and exercise. It's also great for the brain. This happens through different mechanisms. One is through growth hormones. For that, you have to meet 5 criteria. First, warm up 5 to 10 minutes. Second, close to failure exercise, but not necessarily to failure, which gives you a 300 to 500% increase in growth hormone. Incredible again. Third, low blood glucose. Fourth, train 60 to 75 minutes, although I do only 20 to 30 minutes. And last but not least, bring your body temperature down after you're done. Insulin growth factor, which is triggered by growth hormone, then osteocalcin, which is released from the bones, then there's myokine, which is released from the muscles, then there's ketones as well. Oh my god, so many terms there. The last two crosses the BBB, or blood-brain barrier, just a barrier of your brain, and stimulates brain-derived neurotraffic factor. This is essentially good soup for your brain. You know the burn that you get when you, for instance, do HIIT? Well, that's lactate. And that's also great for the brain. Not to mention the other benefits it has for preventing cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's, etc, etc. After the workout, I would do the cyclic sigh because the faster you can calm your body, the faster the recovery.
Why'd you talk like that?
Also between meditation, Wim Hof breathing, box breathing, and the physiological sigh, the latter one for managing stress throughout the day, and one must only do it for 5 minutes a day. Yeah, I mean, incredible. Incredible. Don't forget to hydrate again after your workout. And ideally with electrolytes. There's this famous equation from Dr. Andy Galpin, and Andrew Huberman dubbed it as the Galpin equation. Oh, my voice cracking all over the place here.
What I wouldn't give just to be hitting puberty again.
Not only is the amount of REM sleep you get an indication of how long you will live, but also your VO2 max. If you are a complete beginner, then don't go extreme, because only walking for 10 minutes already improves your mood.
Yeah.
Here's yet another proof for walking, in case you want to sit all day. Did you also know that exercise snacks done a couple of times a day affects your all-cause mortality and cardiovascular health as well? There are 4 areas that people might forget, or let's say, I do. Neck, which I tend to forget the most, tip push-up, and calves. Last but not least, external rotations. Jeff Cavalier from Athlete X highlighted the importance of this. What if life gets in the way and you can't exercise at all? Good news, you have 3 weeks time before you actually lose your muscle mass. When it comes to your condition, it's 2 weeks. Interestingly, if you have muscle mass, you also tend to live longer. Alright, now it's time for a cold shower. Why cold? You're increasing noradrenaline in your body, and through certain mechanisms like UCP1, you're turning your white fat into brown fat. Sounds disgusting. They're insulin sensitive and burn glucose and fat to produce thermogenesis. As Susanna Soberg said, the more insulin sensitive you are, the less health disease you have, like obesity and diabetes. Also, when there's epinephrine in your body, you are deploying B and T cells that fight against infection. Okay, after I've dressed up and put on a fragrance, because you always have to smell nice, I'd make myself a whey protein. One of the most important thing that any one of us can do is maintaining muscle mass, because without it, we can increase our mortality by 200%. 200%. So exercise and take your protein.
All right, I'm gonna go make a protein shake.
Obviously, one doesn't have to take whey. It really depends on your goal with your body. Creatine. Why creatine? It's for mood, bone mineral density, for amino acid synthesis, oxidative stress, backup fuel for your mitochondria, and even for testosterone and DHT, as Dr. Gillette said. There's more and more evidence of creatine and how it's also beneficial for the brain. How much you take depends on your weight, but I personally go for 5 grams. Now, it's time to tackle my day. Why am I talking like this? I have no idea. But before we get into that, let's talk about one of the most important things, yes, another important thing, your willpower and mindset. and stress. There's a great episode with Elliot Crum that talks about how belief shape the outcome. Also, whatever you think influences your mitochondria, your energy part of your cell. What? You are good. It is best when one adopts the growth mindset. When one thinks that their traits are fixed rather than emphasizing on their effort, they actually perform worse. I am smart. No, emphasize your effort. My effort, it's smart. Yeah, kind of. Willpower. When it comes to that, I think the mega boss is David Goggins. He could probably destroy a house with just his mind. Damn! For normal people like us, let's go with what Andrew Huberman taught us. 4 things to keep in mind: get enough sleep, no physical or emotional pain, and don't be distracted. The good news is that the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, which is responsible for our willpower, it's plastic. We can train it, and as we train, we get better at having tenacity. We should therefore do micro-suck.
Well, that sucks.
There you can see again how powerful our thoughts and beliefs can be. Now let's talk about what everyone encounters, which is stress. 4 to 5 bouts of long-term stress can lead to depression. However, short-term stress is good. It's like when you're exercising. That is also a short-term stress for the body, but this is for the mind. However, I would say short-term stress can be boiled down to 2 stresses: challenging stress and damn stress. We go through both, and once in a while we go through a damn fucking stress. Let's talk about the first one. When you do anything challenging, you will be a little stressed. There will be epinephrine output that allows you to focus on whatever. According to the book Atomic Habits, there's also a sweet spot concerning how challenging one task should be, the so-called Goldilocks rule. In short, a task should not be too challenging, but nor should it be too easy either. Also, according to Elisa Apel, having a little stress is also good for your brain. Anyway, if we're talking about damn stress, which again, everyone goes through, then one can implement the fastest way to downregulate that, which is again, the physiological sigh. It all has to do with the space in your heart. I guess just seeing it kind of relaxes you, right? Or maybe not, I know. When you exhale, your diaphragm goes up, making your heart smaller, and the sinoatrial node signals the brain that it should slow the heart rate down so that the blood in the heart isn't circulating too fast because of the smaller heart volume. I do this throughout my day when I'm stressed, but then there are days where I didn't get enough sleep and then it doesn't work at all. Hence why it is really important to prioritize your sleep. What about damn fucking stress? Well, this is difficult to say, so take what I'm about to say as a grain of salt. It's just my perspective. In this case, it's important to prioritize on your sleep. But perhaps you're so stressed out that you can't even do that. In this case, it's important to get social support. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say it's good, it's great, because it's not, or else it wouldn't be stressful. However, sometimes it's necessary to have. Something else what you could do is watch awe-inspiring videos, because that also reduces your stress by 14% and increases your happiness by 25%. All of the statistics, goddamn. Because without the bad, you wouldn't be able to appreciate the good. Oh my god, here we go. Leverage this phase and time. A lot can be learned during this time. I'm gonna be honest though, it still sucks. Alright, now let's get to the focusing part. But before I do that, I want to admit something. I actually use a substance to enhance my focusing power. Well, I know. Cigarette? No, but believe it or not, smoking does enhance your focus because of how nicotine parks into one of the focusing receptor called nicotinic. I don't have to tell you that smoking is awesome, right? I also hope that you can detect my sarcastic tone. But now you know why people who smoke can actually focus for a period of time after smoking. It's not cigarettes, but caffeine. It is nurturing for the dopamine receptors and increases dopamine. Not only does it affect dopamine, but it also increases acetylcholine, which is why it helps you focus. It is possible to overdo it. It increases epinephrine. If you're not used to it, start slowly. And if you see it's not working for you, then obviously don't drink it. I try to have my last coffee intake around 2 p.m. If taken too close to bed, it can affect your deep non-REM sleep up to 30% according to Matthew Walker. We not only go through our circadian rhythm, but also an ultradian cycle in 90-minute increments. This was proposed by Nathaniel Kleitman and it's called the basic rest activity cycle, not circle. So one can utilize this and do deep work for 90 minutes without any distractions. Be aware that the first couple of minutes you might be out of concentration, but after that hurdle, you will be in deep focus. Here and there, you might be a bit distracted, and towards the end, that's where you will just, get out of focus. The main takeaway is to limit all distractions and go all in into your work. The first 8 to 9 hours after you wake up, that's when your testosterone and dopamine levels are the highest. And so it would make sense to do the most difficult task then. Whereas after that, that's when your serotonin will be higher and it's perhaps a better time to do your creative task.
That's not true at all. I am active in the afternoon, cut in the morning. I look at butthole. Why butthole so beautiful? Look at that. God damn. But I also drink.
I'm just telling you what I've learned from Andrew Huberman. But the best thing to do is to track your energy and see what works for you. A trick that you can do if you're out of focus is to let your eyes focus on a single point. This is because of how it's connected with a part of the brain called locus ceruleus, releasing epinephrine, but also other chemicals like acetylcholine to get you into focus.
What's going on? Hey, wait, hey.
I'm gonna admit that I don't really rely on this, but rather white noise, because it targets an area of the brain full of dopamine. You can also use binaural beats or instrumental music. Whatever works. Also be aware of the different hertz that one can utilize. After your work bout, take a break. Not only will you experience micro offline gains, but you should also relax your eyes, tapping into the magnocellular pathway, meaning broadening the view and tapping into the parasympathetic nervous system. What is also interesting to know is that looking at faces during the morning and afternoon is also linked to well-being because of how the fusiform gyrus is linked to emotionality. So look at some faces. All right, it's time for diet. A very controversial topic, and there are many diets out there, so there is no one size fits all. You have to experiment. Don't be a perfectionist. Enjoy a little. Eat some burgers, eat some fries, get fat a little, and then don't get fat, okay. I'm going to give you a broad overview of what I eat based on science, of course. And like I've already mentioned, only because I eat it doesn't mean that you have to eat it. Experiment. See what works for you. I eat around 4 to 6 eggs per day.
Dude. Cholesterol. Cholesterol, dude.
Based on what Dr. Eric said, it's not true, but again, do your blood test. Why eggs? Well, first of all, they have the full profile of amino acid, but also because of the egg yolk's choline content. We need choline, or rather acetylcholine, to focus. So at lunchtime, I would have my oats for its fiber content, and according to Dr. Lane Norton, the more fiber, the better. Then I'll have different fruits for its vitamins and minerals, some seeds like flaxseed and chia seeds for its protein and omega-3 content, brazel nuts because of its selenium content. Selenium and iodine are important for your metabolism to function properly. Not only that, but also tyrosine, which is also in nuts. These nuts! By the way, your dopamine is also synthesized from L-tyrosine. Concerning iodine, be careful not to have too much or else it could affect your blood pressure. Side note, real quick. If you want to replenish dopamine, which is the universal currency, then it's also good to know what to do to get it back. It gets replenished when you get sufficient sleep, exercise because of how it impinges on the nigrostriatal pathway, one of the dopamine pathways, viewing sunlight, yoga nidra. Believe it or not, it increases dopamine by up to 65%, and cold and warm water. If you do ice bath, it can increase your dopamine levels up to 250%. This also lasts up to hours. With warm water, you actually have to stay for an hour, so I don't think a lot of us have that time during the day. But if
you do, great. Whereas with cold water, you just need a couple of minutes. Okay, let's get back to the diet.
I top it all off with natural yogurt, which is probiotics. What is better, prebiotics or probiotics? Both are good. Don't overcomplicate it, man. There was also a study done with Dr. Sonnenberg, where they had a prebiotic and probiotic group, and the latter had a more diverse microbiome.
Okay, let me explain you what microbiome is. Micro means small, and Asian people, we know a lot about small. And biome mean, you know what, let Winnie explain you, because I don't know shit. This again is a vast literature and there is so much more to discover.
Basically, everywhere we have microbes, bacteria, and the ones in our gut, we have trillions of those. Based on what we eat, we feed them. And what we feed them is how we will feel, because believe it or not, they also synthesize our neuromodulators like dopamine, serotonin, or GABA. There's a compound called urolithin A, which has a positive impact on our mitochondria, the energy part of our cell. What releases it? Berries, for example. Not only because of that, but also because of anthocyanins. That is great for the brain health.
If I had to boil it down to just one fruit for the rest of my life, it would be blueberries. If I had to boil it down to one particular food, it would be eggs. Eggman.
If you're interested in the different compounds each food has, I highly recommend the book Young Forever, which I will link in the description, and some episodes from Andrew Huberman. After my lunch, I would... Oh, okay, sorry, I have to calm myself a bit. After my lunch, I would meditate. I don't directly get into productive work because of the postprandial dip that everyone experiences. Dr. Wendy Suzuki showed that it improves mood, handling stress, and memory, and you only need to do it 12 to 13 minutes a day. The book Ultra Traits also showed that done multiple times a day, it can facilitate plasticity. But most importantly, and this was beautifully shown in 2010 report from Matthew Killingsworth and Dan Gilbert, that people who are in the present are way happier than those who aren't. I meditate however long I can, even if it's 1 minute. It's better than nothing. And some days I don't meditate at all. Sometimes I might be feeling lousy because I haven't slept enough, or I just feel demotivated. Whatever I am feeling, I will reflect on those feelings because it is healthier for your mental health.
After I've meditated, I would get back to work.
What one can do to enhance the creativity is the cathedral effect. If you have a higher space above you, you're apparently more creative. There are two main categories for creativity: the divergent, brainstorming, and convergent, putting it together, thinking. Believe it or not, both of these types tap into the dopamine system. The divergent one taps into the nigrostriatal pathway, which is involved in movement. This is one of the reasons why when you go for a walk, you get a little creative.
Since you're tapping into the dopamine system, there is actually a sweet spot to be at.
Not too high or too low. Here again, you can follow the 90-minute cycle of deep focus and then taking a break. Not only to relax yourself, but also for your eyes.
Yeah, that's why I have glasses now. I don't know, maybe I watched too much telly when I was a kid. But if you do have kids, let them go outside because the light outside has positive effects on the eyes. One should definitely get as much sunlight as possible to the eyes, and we have already touched upon the topic of priming your cortisol and melatonin, but it's also important to do it throughout your day.
Dr. Seema Hattar says that there's a part of our brain called the ventromedial prefrontal cortex that is associated with mood, which is positively impacted by light we get throughout the day. Not only that, but getting sunlight is also important for synthesizing vitamin D, and when we get sunlight onto our skin, we also get a boost in testosterone due to p53 activity on our keratinocyte. Alright, this is a great segue into testosterone. A very important hormone because of that. It makes effort feel good. It gives you the drive, and dopamine and testosterone is closely linked because when dopamine is high, your testosterone is also high. Hence why in the morning, your testosterone levels are higher than in the evening.
But how can one boost testosterone?
Through competition?
Tell me what you got!
There's also something about semen retention that can boost one's testosterone.
If you don't ejaculate for 7 days, there's a boost in testosterone.
Why Can I not ejaculate? Why?
Resistance training also boosts testosterone, but what's very important to consider is to have the sufficient levels of magnesium, zinc, and vitamin D as well. This was beautifully laid out in the episode with Dr. Rhonda Patrick and why you would want to opt for magnesium, vitamin D, and omega-3.
All right, since we're talking about food, let's talk about what I have for dinner.
Garlic for its allicin content and sulfur component, which is important for the production of glutathione, which is like a great clean filtering process for the brain and also for the body. What else that produces glutathione is sulforaphane, that also possesses anti-cancer properties, which is abundant in broccoli, for example. It also activates NRF2, which gets rid of carcinogens. If I don't have broccoli, then I'd have cabbage for its glutamine, phosphatidylserine, and luteolin content. Also, if you have vegetables, your microbiome produces this short-chain fatty acid called butyrate, which is anti-inflammatory, supports metabolism, and creates a barrier.
It's his excessive consumption of mushrooms.
For its benzoic and cinnamic acid, which has numerous benefits for the body as well. Did I just say numerous? This is laid out in the book Young Forever. I then top it off with canned sardines with sunflower oil, but why sardines? Because of its DHA and EPA content. And protein, of course. Protein.
All right, hold on, but are canned fish really that good? They say BPA can affect your testosterone and sunflower oil. Really? Is that really the healthiest option? I told you I'm not perfect, and I guess I'm doing other things to even that out.
I'd have tomatoes for its lycopene content. I'd have olives for its oleuropein.
The avocado.
For its healthy monounsaturated fat. Sometimes I'd have mozzarella because of its protein or protein bread. Sometimes I'd also have dark chocolate for its antioxidants.
I've thrown you lots of terms here, but the most important thing to remember is to opt for whole food, prebiotic, probiotic, fiber, and to limit processed food. But come on, 80-20 or 70-30 ratio is okay because you want to enjoy life a little, right?
Diet is a very controversial topic, but the good news is that there's a 10-year study done, and here's a summary of what you should take into consideration for good health. Or just do what Dr. Lane Norton says. When I made this video, I was still at Dad's, and sometimes I would have a little conversation with him. Social connection, is important for oxytocin, but also serotonin. And we need serotonin for repair. It's also a great stress buffer because of that. We all need social connections, and it is actually homeostatic regulated, meaning we have an area in our brain called the Raphian nucleus that sends out dopamine as a signal for us to seek out social connection. If we don't, we will seek out other venues to satisfy that craving. Also, if we don't socialize at all and social isolate, which I have done in the past, we will build up tachykinin in our brain, which is bad because it makes us more aggressive and causes social anxiety. Interestingly, laughter is also something that shouldn't be overlooked, and we love humor for a reason. If you aren't still convinced how powerful socialization is, then this will. What I also try to do regularly, or at least once a week, is gratitude. Dr. Paul Conti said that the two main components for good mental health is agency and gratitude. The power of gratitude is incredible. Not only does it guard you against trauma, but it leans you towards pro-social circuit. It also gives you a sense of motivation, enhances well-being, and decreases anxiety.
Believe it or not, it also decreases your inflammation by doing it just one time. Like, what?
However, there are two tricks that one can use to boost the effects even more, which is first to implement theory of mind, meaning to put yourself in other people's shoes when expressing gratitude and feeling how they would feel. Secondly, finding a gratitude story. Antonio Damasio clearly showed that when one has a gratitude story, that the pro-social circuit gets enhanced even further. If you do a gratitude practice regularly, you will become more empathetic as well because of the ACC.
We all have bad days, and so it's not always possible to be grateful for what we have, but the more we do it, the easier it gets.
Now it's time to chillax. I'm not one of those people who still hustles in the evening. I try to do everything until 17 o'clock. Why do I say 17 o'clock? 5 p.m.
Who knows, maybe in the future I will dedicate more time for a side hustle in the evening. but it's something that I definitely have to work towards.
At the moment, I do my side hustle when I'm working at Tegelbergbahn, you know, with the cabin and all.
Yes, it definitely requires willpower to do something in the evening because you're exhausted. And again, if I am there, I will make a video on that.
For now, chillax, my man. Many people underestimate this because what you do in the evening before bedtime will also dictate how your following day will be. Dr. Sachin Panda talked about this, but also Dr. Elisa April.
One can hustle in the evening, and perhaps one actually has to do that because of their circumstance, but if you can and you have the possibility to, try to wind down, my friend. Wind down. Calm yourself down right now. Here again, up for 80% of the time. If it's not possible, then 70%.
Now we come to my, again, favorite topic, which is sleep. I know I've talked about it already at the beginning, but I also want to end with it. That's how important it is. This is also one of the reasons why sleep was one of the first few episodes of Andrew Huberman. The amazing benefits of getting sufficient qualitative sleep is miraculous. Whether you're talking about your mood, hormones, metabolism, immune system, concentration, memory, neuroplasticity, etc., etc.
If there's one sentence that will be taken to Andrew Huberman's gravestone is get sunlight into your eyes.
Your last meal should be 2 hours before bed because when insulin is low, that's where growth hormone occurs. Try to limit bright light before going to bed because how it can interrupt your circadian rhythm, unless it's 10 lux red light that also is able to lower your cortisol.
Perhaps you can take a warm bath, which I haven't done in a very long time, to cool your body temperature down, because believe it or not, your body needs to cool down by 1 degree Celsius in order to get sleep, and anything that helps that is awesome.
Concerning food, you could eat something that is rich in tryptophan because that is converted into serotonin. Or what I've recently learned is that if you increase your fiber intake, limit saturated fat and sugar, that can also enhance your sleep. There are certain fruits like kiwi that could promote sleep as well. Try to avoid light between 10 or 11 p.m. until 4 a.m. because of how it affects your habenula, the disappointing center, and it could deplete your dopamine as well. Also, seeing bright light in those hours, 15 seconds onward, will quash your melatonin by up to 50%. What sleep experts like Dr. Matthew Walker and Dr. Gina Poe both agree is that consistent bedtimes is very crucial. Because the biggest growth hormone pulse occurs at the same time early in the night depending on your sleep schedule. The same applies to cleaning out the accumulated debris in your brain. Dr. Matthew Walker has an entire podcast dedicated to the science of sleep, which I highly recommend you follow. Knowing all of that is great. Science is a tool that everyone can adapt to each person's situation. However, if things don't work out for you, then that's okay too. Don't be so stuck with what's proven, but sometimes one should also experiment what works and what doesn't work for them. I really love science, or else I wouldn't have memorized over 150 videos, but there's a beauty in not knowing everything and by having some things left uncovered. There's a mystery. Therefore, being self-aware is one of the greatest tools. This is why I track my activities. This is literally one of the best things I've done for myself. And I encourage you to do the same, because what's better than knowing oneself more? There are obviously many other things that I haven't talked about in this video, either because at the time of this video I'm not doing them, I want to integrate them more often into my life, or because they deserve an entire video for themselves. For instance, procrastination. If you have followed me for some time now, you might know that I was really the master of procrastination. I've talked about exercising, but what I haven't mentioned is stretching. This is really important for maintaining the neuromuscular ecosystem. It also allows you to be calmer due to the Van Economo neurons by activating the parasympathetic nervous system. Have you ever wondered why you are so calm around nature? Is it because of the green color? Is it because of the smell? Or when you are at the beach and you hear the sound of the wave, you just want to take a nap. Perhaps after waking, you feel refreshed and are recharged in order for you to tap into your creativity. By putting yourself in one of your most painful moments and really experiencing it emotionally, you have long-lasting effects on your management of stress and immune system by journaling for 15 to 30 minutes. For more detail on this journaling type, I recommend you watch the episode with, of course, Dr. Andrew Huberman. Last but not least, something that everyone should do at the end of the day is give value to others. Acts of kindness. This is what we are all here to do, to give back. We learn and educate ourselves so we are equipped with a certain skill or knowledge so we can give back to the community. Believe it or not, this also decreases our premature death by 22%.
Like I said, this is how an optimal day would look like, but that is not how life looks like. Be okay with those bad days or life days because it's an opportunity to learn more about yourself, to optimize and what you can improve upon. If everything were perfect, it would be boring. There is no solution without the problem. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a very long one, but I tried to boil down everything what I've learned. Also, this was a great opportunity for me to tell you what I've learned from memorizing over 150 videos from Andrew Huberman. If you enjoyed this video, then please like it because that will support my full-time content creation dream. And yeah, until next time.